Hello and welcome to the first Leyton Orient Clubcast. I'm O's media manager Luke Lambourne, and whilst in lockdown, we'll be speaking to key figures for updates on the O's and perhaps even catch up with some old faces. So this is part 2 of the discussion with Nigel and Kent, where, among other things, they discuss what they're missing about Orient and their message for the supporters. Obviously with the EFL, there's been, if you keep up with the news and the headlines, there's been a suggestion of different ways things could be resumed. One of those options is for games to be played behind closed doors. So in terms of how the club's preparing for that eventuality, how would we best kind of cope in this situation, and would you feel ready for that?
I don't know if we would. I don't know if we would be ready or not. The first question is, how does Colin feel about the pitch, or are we playing on our pitch? Where is the behind closed doors production environment? Don't know. Will the players be ready? I would be most concerned about match fitness. And I would want to prevent them from sustaining any sort of long-term or career-ending injuries because they were either brought back too fast or they were exposed, too aggressively to something they shouldn't have, that it shouldn't have been done. From a club perspective, I think that we are prepared. We certainly can broadcast the games via streaming. We've probably got one of the strongest streaming environments and abilities in the league. And I think our fans globally, including the United Kingdom, would respond very well to us, broadcasting those games. And I think they would, view it very often. It's going to be a scheduling nightmare. Can you imagine trying to play every team behind closed doors? It's not, you remember, it's not just us. It's not just us.
Mm-hmm.
There are 23 other clubs in the league, 71 clubs in the football league, 20 clubs in the Premier League. There are a lot of games to be played behind closed doors. Where, when, how can we keep the broadcasters socially distanced? Can we keep the cameramen or women socially distanced? There are a lot of considerations, and until someone tells us this is what we're going to do, we are not going to spend an inordinate amount of time preparing for it. I would prefer for us to wait and be told this is what we're going to do, and we will have input into what we're going to do, but I would prefer that we're told more specifically and less generally, this is what we're going to do before we begin to respond and react to every possibility of how it could or could not work. Nigel?
Yeah, it's interesting. I agree with what Kent said, but I think I want to pick up one item he said there, that we're probably better prepared than others on streaming. The time in the National League, and Luke, you weren't there, was an absolute nightmare dealing with the National League on streaming. Talk about backward thinking.
I've heard.
I recall when we were first in the National League, I was on vacation with my son David, who is the expert on streaming, and we had a phone call in this place. We had this villa in Greece, and we were in the backyard on a phone call with the National League, and I think they thought we were from Mars talking about streaming. Now, think about it. This is not even 3 years ago, and everyone's talking about streaming all games. So I think the struggles we had in the National League have actually helped us because it's given us a much better understanding of how it works. And I think if and when we have to stream the games, and I want to make it clear, we want to play games in front of fans. As Kent said earlier, very accurately, it's a live entertainment business. We want to do that. So I don't want anyone to think that we'd prefer not to. But if we had to, we are well set up. And again, one thing the fans could do is to encourage as many people as they can to watch Leyton Orient Football Club. I actually think the product is good. It's improved a lot this year. It's improved during the year. but we all know people around the world, and it's a global product where we can take Leighton Orient to fans around the world. So I'd ask them to reach out to 2, 3 people and get them to watch it as much as they can. That's a way of helping our financial situation. It's a way of making Leighton Orient a bigger and better club. And Luke, you and Dan came up with this idea of the FIFA game. And I think it's fair to say, as a result of that, you've increased dramatically the number of people who know about Leighton Orient. And more importantly, we have contact details, albeit in most cases on Twitter, of a lot of people. So I think we've got to take advantage of that. And I think a lot of people, we talk a lot about Leighton Orient being people's number 2 club. You know, they support a big team and a smaller team. I think that is a huge opportunity for us, that we can build on the back of what Luke did, which was fantastic. And Luke, just out of interest, I think we're in the semi-finals now, aren't we, on the FIFA game?
We're actually in the final tonight, so I think by the time this has gone out, we'll know who our winner is. But yeah, we've got Wolves flying the flag for England up against FC Groningen from the Netherlands.
Sorry,
let me just finish. Go ahead. So what I was going to say is, we played this game against Moscow Dynamo, and yeah, I'm not a big FIFA player though. My son Ian is, and when the players stayed at my house 2 years running, they're all big FIFA players, and I know Kent's a world expert as well. But I watched the game. It was a great game, despite the fact we lost, and I couldn't believe that on our side. And Luke, correct me if I get the numbers wrong, but 13,000 people watched our side of it, the Leighton Orient part of the game. I mean, that is an opportunity for us.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think one thing we will see in this week is a few more steps into the kind of esports world for Leighton Orient. So if by the time that this podcast isn't out, then it will certainly be soon.
I think the thing that I would add, Luke, to what Nigel has been saying is whether you want to call it lucky or whether you want to call it blessed, Leighton Orient Football Club is extremely lucky and extremely blessed to have massive amount of talent and expertise in so many valuable areas. David Travis, who happens to be Nigel's son, is one of the world's experts on streaming and the ability to move content from one location in the world to another location in the world. Matt Porter is one of the world-renowned experts of being able to put on and create an environment around a game where people both want to attend and they want to watch and they want to bet on it. Whether it's someone throwing a dart or hitting a ball with a narrow stick, or, I mean, we have tremendous amounts of talent. And you've got Marshall Taylor, who understands retail, clothing distribution, the distribution of products around the world at a level that is really unmatched. And we've got Rich Emmett, who legally understands how to make things happen. I mean, we are so blessed as a board. And we've got Martin Ling, who understands players and how to manage things and cause things to happen on and off the pitch, both from an academy perspective. And you've got Danny Macklin, who I must admit in this last month has continued to amaze me with the amount of responses and reactions that he's provided on Twitter, the amount of interactions he's having with the Football League. We as a club are super blessed. And that's why I believe that we are very well prepared if we play behind closed doors or we don't play behind closed doors. If we play in May or we play in June, or if we don't play in May or June. Because we have so much talent and so much excellent variety and expertise, among the club, I actually believe we are best prepared for any eventuality. Doesn't matter what they throw at us.
Can I just add one thing? I think this is Kent made me think of another thing as he usually does, which is why it works so well. Um, he talks about the talent. One of our senior people, I won't name the individual, has volunteered for the NHS to help. I don't really understand quite what he's doing, but the way I understand it, he's kind of like the traffic cop on all the calls they're getting. And I think it's important to put all this in context. We talk about football, we talk about the world of football, we talk about Leighton Orient. Nothing is more important than resolving the crisis for the world, for people's health, for the future of society, for the future of individuals, the future of business, and it has to get solved. And I think I want to take this opportunity, Luke, to say, I've tried to practice social distancing for 3 weeks now. Kent's done a better job than me, like he often does. But can I reinforce? Don't go out unless you have to. Make sure you keep washing your hands. Everything that we hear all the time, we have got to tackle this, and it needs a full blast from everyone. And if you have the chance to volunteer, as one of our people did, to help the NHS, please do it.
Fantastic. And I guess that leads us quite nicely. And I was going to talk about both Nigel and Kent's experience in wider business around the world. And obviously, Nigel, you sit on a lot of boards. Kent, likewise. Is there anything that you're seeing out there at the moment that's kind of reflecting what you're seeing in football? And is there anything you can kind of share with the supporters that you're finding interesting at the moment?
Oh my gosh. It's so I guess the thing that everyone should know is that Nigel and I continue to speak to each other every day during the situation. And I'll let Nigel talk about his uh, insane schedule of conference calls and things that he's involved in. He's involved in a number of global businesses. I'm involved in a number of businesses, but not as directly as he is. I think we are watching very carefully the how the world is responding. There are some very big players in this game. China is a very big player. India is a very big player. Europe is a very big player. The United States is a very big player. South America is going to end up being a very big player where there are large volumes of population and there are large volumes of density of population. The virus tends to have a bigger impact and is actually transmitted quite rapidly. And so what we're watching is from a global perspective, I'm trying to understand where where the paradigms, where the values, where we have decided how we're going to combat the virus and how we're going to do it socially and economically, just watching and understanding, and then trying best to understand how those contexts will impact Leighton Orient Football Club, both from a business perspective and from a social perspective. And I guess the thing that amazes me is how adept human beings are. We have the ability to adjust and change and make changes way quicker than I expected. And I am also very heartened by the number of stories that I hear about families doing certain things for each other, for the grandparents, for the aunts, for the uncles, the way that we're all trying to protect globally the most vulnerable in the world. And so for us, for me specifically, from a worldwide perspective, I see certain sectors that are going to come out of this virus much stronger. I do think consumer staple is going to be really strong, and I think healthcare is going to be really strong. Some are going to be wounded, um, and it'll take a while for them to recover. But for us, what we're doing is we're trying to best help those businesses to prepare and to react to what's going on in the world. Let me say this one other thing, and then I'll turn it over to Nigel. For me personally, it's all about family. And when I say family, it's not just the 300 people who share my last name, and it's not just the 300 who share my wife's last name. It's about, we both have very large families, by the way. And it's also about the people that are a part of our very close social network. Some people that I work with, some people that impact us on a daily basis in and around our house. So for us, it's about paying attention most to them, trying to help them, trying to be there for them, trying to do what we can in order to help them maybe deliver food or go by and wave outside the door or whatever. But for me and for us, the most important thing is family. And I think everybody at Leighton Orient should know that we consider Leighton Orient family. I consider Nigel Travis to be part of my family. I think about Ian, and I think about Brooke, and I think about Joanna. I think about Ruth, and I think about how this is impacting them, and if there's a way that I can add any value or generate or contribute any comfort to any of them in anything that's happening. So just know that family matters to us, even in a time of crisis like this, maybe more. And it's something that we're thinking about.
So I think that's a good point to take off. I mean, I think, as I said earlier, we tried in our decision making to treat everyone at Leighton Orient, all employees, as family. Luke happens to be a very new member of the family, doesn't he, Ken? And he's, as I said on the employee call, he's probably had the most interesting start that anyone's ever had in the history of Leighton Orient to their employment. What was it, 1 week and you went off sick?
Yeah.
And then all this happened. But
yeah, I agree, Nigel. He's like that person that marries into the family and then wonders what in the world he's got himself into.
I will also add, Nigel, I'm probably the employee with the longest 100% winning record.
That is true. That is true. Yeah. Okay. Well, by the way, I did tell, being positive, I did tell Ross the other day that if and when we play again, we don't know what teams we're going to face, because some teams haven't done anything. Some teams are probably going to not decide to sign some players at the end of the contract, which is another uncertainty. So he might as well just push and go as hard as he can for the playoffs. The chances of getting there are probably like 2%, but give it a go. But anyway, so I think the first thing is Kent talked about family, and he really does epitomise that. And thank you for those nice words, Kent. And we all feel the same. But it's this coronavirus, as I said earlier, it's not all been bad. I mean, I think one of the things is we've had daily drinks with friends and family. And the Travis family is actually pretty big, comes from up north near Oldham. And one of the things that Leighton Orient's done for our family is bring the family together. When my late aunt Irene died a couple of years ago, at the funeral, we all agreed that we would stay in touch. So they're kind of like cousins, second cousins, etc. And Leighton Orient's been powerful because we've had, when I go up north, I bring in the northern contingent. When we go out west, we have the west contingent. But one of the things it's done through Zoom-like calls, I think it's brought families closer together. So we've got a new way of meeting. We usually have wine with it. I'm not quite sure why, but we always do. So I think the first message I'd say, going back to your original question, is I think for all businesses, kindness is very important. We've got to become kinder and nicer to each other. Kent really talked about my second point, which is, he used the word, I wrote it down, adept. The speed of innovation is unbelievable. I'll give you an example. One board I'm on, most people never heard of it in this country, but they've got 7,300 stores in the US, Advance Auto. We didn't have an app for all kinds of reasons, and it probably wasn't applicable to have an app, but we felt it would be good for our consumer business. It was planned for the end of Q2, so the end of June. It got done last week, and it's working really well. And so they pushed it and got it done. Another example is because we know that a lot of people don't want to go out to the stores. And by the way, just to put it in context, in America, the kind of lockdown isn't quite the same as it is in the UK. So we did same day delivery and got that launched in 2 weeks. So he's absolutely right. People can do more than they think given the circumstances. I think a big trend, there's something that Danny and I have talked a lot about, is contactless is becoming absolutely paramount in a lot of circumstances. In the US, the drive-through, which has a storied history in the fast food industry, has become more important than ever because it's effectively contactless. And I think you're going to see more and more businesses trying to make it contactless as time goes on. But the biggest thing is it's really put a premium on leadership, whether the business has 4 people or I nearly said 4 million, but probably no one's got 4 million, but a lot of people, thousands, millions even, leadership is important. And leadership is all about how you treat people. So it's a circle where we come back to people. And a headhunter said to me 2 weeks ago, in crisis like this, you really find out who are the good people, the people who really you want to have leading a business, because it's about survival, but it's also preparing for the future. Because the one thing that's clear is the business model that you had before the crisis will not be the business model you need after the crisis. So they're the big points, I think, Luke.
Thank you, Nigel. Going on to a bit more of a kind of blue sky thinking now with this question. You mentioned something until I die earlier, Nigel, and I was watching it the other day, and when they were celebrating the goals and you see the passion of the fans, it kind of reminded me just how much I'm missing football at the moment. So the question to each of you would be is when I guess we're back and everything's back to normal and all the supporters are back in the stand and we're sitting there ready for a 3 o'clock kickoff, what will be the one thing about a match day at the Braille Group Stadium that you'll really enjoy and would have missed the most?
That's a great question. I mean, I've said this probably 25 million times. You probably haven't heard it before, but there was a book written 20 years ago, In Search of Excellence. It's one of the great management leadership tones. And there's a chapter in there, Management by Walking Around. And Kent is the best person I've ever seen do it. What it really meant, I think, was if you got a factory, you walk around, talk to all the employees, chat to people. And I talked to one of our Leighton Orient investors this morning who's got Wendy's and Taco Bell restaurants, and he was saying how much he's enjoyed talking to all his people at different levels. But Kent is the best example because he sets his schedule on a match day, walks around the ground, talks to people. So he demonstrates it, and we've all decided we can't copy Kent because there's only one Kent, and he does it in his unique way. I think I'm looking forward to the sound of Tawana Brass. Tawana Taxi, coming out louder. And by the way, before anyone says anything, we are going to try and fix the speaker system, and got David Travis working on that with someone from the States at the moment. But we want the music to be louder, which I think, Luke, you'd agree that the music before the game was kind of one of the things that got much discussed in Sunderland till I die. So yeah. I want to hear Tawana Taxi. I want to see the team coming out, whether it's led by Joby McAnuff, who I thought played awesome for 20 minutes in the game that's your 100% record, or Josh Coulson or whoever. It's that start of the game I always look forward to because it means there's expectations, the team are fit, they're ready to go, we've got the opponents. But the other thing I want to comment on is, the way it works where the directors sit is the other team sit on the table kind of behind where I sit. I've always made a practice going over chatting to them. This may be shocking. There's some really nice people in football. And I know some of the people who aren't so nice get the publicity, but some really nice people. I think we're all going to feel a lot closer. I mean, I'm looking forward to meeting them, greeting them, and despite the fact that we all take football very seriously, at the end of the day, it's a game. And I think we have to recognise that there's a broader family, which is the football community. So they're the two things: to earn a taxi and meeting the other opponents.
Lovely stuff. And Ken, obviously, Nigel's just spoken very highly of you walking across the ground on a match day and meeting people.
Yeah.
Is that the one that's top of your list?
For me, it is the whole process. It's everything from getting ready in the morning, walking down, seeing fans at Lion and Key for breakfast, having a chat with them, walking over to the ground, happened to run into a couple of fans on my way over to the ground. The schedule starts at noon, and I most miss the human interaction, the social interaction, the 500 handshakes, the 500 cuddles, the you know, it's fans telling us how bad the club is and how great the club is and what they think about the club and what they think about me. And I miss that interaction, that give and take, and I miss welcoming the players to the stadium as they walk through reception and having a word with them and just trying to put a smile on their face and get them ready. And then, I absolutely love celebrating a goal. I miss celebrating a goal on the balcony and running and jumping and putting my fist in the air and yelling, "Get in there, come on, let's go!" And all the fans trying to get me to calm down, and that's fantastic. And then I love the aftermath of the game, listening to the man of the match interview and being a part of that, and hopefully having a group of young players who are up there for the first time and they see a man of a match and they get their picture taken with them and watching them interact with whoever the player was. And then I miss my interaction in the supporters club after the game. Our supporters are passionate. They are very knowledgeable. They challenge me consistently. My favorite time to go in is right after a draw, when I can tell them that this is the most messed up part of the game. We should play till somebody wins or loses. Death to the loser type thing. It's just fun. It's those individual moments of interaction where I can tell that people are making a difference in me and hopefully I'm making a difference in them. That's the thing I miss most about Leyton Orient Football Club right now.
It's very nicely put, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that will resonate with that and the whole match day in E10 that we're all missing at the moment. Just to finish it off then, guys, I guess if there's any message you want to end on with, of hope to the O's family, then this is your time.
Sure, I've just got two things. Number one is my request of the fans, the staff, the players, everyone involved at Leyton Orient Football Club, be proud. Be proud of what we're doing. Be proud of how we've responded. Be proud of how we've reacted. And be proud of us in the future. We're going to do what it takes to make Leyton Orient Football Club proud. And then my last message is just really simple. It's only 3 words. We love you. We love you. We do. I say it a lot to fans. I say it a lot to everyone involved at Leyton Orient Football Club. We love this club, and mainly we love the people that are involved and are surrounded and are a part of Leyton Orient Football Club.
Yeah, I just wrote down 4 things. I mean, firstly, Kent mentioned the supporters club. I mentioned Loft earlier. We all want the same thing. We want success for Leyton Orient. most of all, we want Leighton Orient to be around for 100 years' time. None of us will be here, but we want the sustainability of the club. I want to thank the Supporters Club for their recent donation again. They've been very consistent coming to the table in times of need, and there's times of need right now. I think I share with what Kent is saying. The goals and the fun we have is very important. I want to see it back as soon as possible. Luke, I think you sent out this morning the goal from a year when Matt Harrold scored against Halifax. We came back from 2-0 down. I mean, I watched that earlier this morning and got a little bit of chills because Kent's right. Goals are what football's all about. I don't agree with him, though. That was an example of when a draw was a great draw. And, he and I will arm wrestle continually over this business about.
It's just part of the banter, Nigel. It's just part of the banter, sir.
And by the way, that's one of the reasons why it works well. And I still say one of the best days ever when, through the Houston Dynamo, Kent and I got connected. So the next thing I just want to say is, listen, Kent mentioned it earlier, reach out to your families. We're part of the family, hopefully for you. If you need anything and you think the club can help, I've done, funny enough, more birthday wishes and videos in the last few weeks than I've done in my whole time at Leighton Orient. We're here to help you. Let's elevate. In this difficult time, let's elevate what's going on. And going back to the Second World War and bombers and all that, I didn't see the Queen's message yesterday, but I think her message that I saw summarized in the newspaper was, "We'll meet again." And when I was a kid, my mum and dad played Vera Lynn's "We'll Meet Again" continually at home. I don't know if Kent's ever actually heard it, or Luke, I'm sure you haven't. So I think that's a great message. And I don't know how good or bad her message was, but I think from what I read, it was uplifting. And I think that my final message to the fans from me is, we'll meet again at the Breyer Group Stadium. We're there to win, but we're there to enjoy the great sport of football, and it will come back, and we're going to make it even better than it was before.
We'll meet again. Don't know where.
A massive thank you to Nigel and Kent for joining us this afternoon to answer a few questions around the current situation. We'll hopefully be having a few more Clubcasts like this in the near future, so keep your eyes on social media and our YouTube channels for all of the latest news.